So you want to make sure that it's meeting the passive income that you need to accomplish your goals. So we're gonna definitely, this book talks about multiple dwellings, but of course the same concept can be for use for a single home, if that's where you want to go with that. I'm just getting set up here, sorry. Now, one of the beautiful things about when you buy investment properties is that not only do you get the cash flow, but you get the appreciation of the home. If you bought it at 220,000 and the value down the road is 250,000 or 200 goes up to 30,000, the appreciation definitely over time, the property will do that. Tax benefits, of course, equity buildup and leverage. So those are some key benefits on rental property that we could take advantage of. And then on top of it, I do mine's under an LLC. So not only do I get the benefits of owning the property, those things, but I also get the benefits of running a business, having employees, and all the tax benefits that you get for owning a business, as well as the liability piece of it. Especially if you plan to have more than one building, I do an LLC for each building. So that way, if a tenant falls, bumps their head, that they're not coming after all of my houses. They could just only sue me or place a suit for that property only. Now, the cash flow, like you said, getting into the numbers, and it just really gets into the basics here. But as we go on and talk more about the deal, you'll see that the expenses will break down. So for example, the rent that you collect, of course, is the income, but then you have insurance that you have to pay on the building, you have taxes that you have to pay on the building. If you want to hire a property manager, you want to factor all those expenses. You want to factor in a vacancy portion in there as well. You want to factor in repairs. So you can do, when you initially, before you purchase the property, you do all the numbers to make sure that you have enough from this deal to cover all of your expenses, because your tenants are the ones that's going to pay the expenses at the, whether you do the double, the triplex, or the quad, your tenant will pay the expenses. So my first deal was a duplex. So I bought it at 80,000. And so one tenant paid all of the expenses. So my second tenant was all gravy. So say when a tenant moves out, you want to, the whole trick of it is that you don't want to have to pay any money out of pocket. So when that's why we say multiple dwellings, because if you purchase a single dwelling property, what happens is when that tenant moves out, and say you don't rent it out in in 30 days, that mortgage still has to be paid. So that's going to be money out of your pocket, versus if you have a double or a triplex or a quad, you're not going to be so stressed when one person moves out. You have enough time to, if there's any repairs, just to get the place ready. And after a while, you'll learn that you can just go in and you'll have a system to whereas you'll know down to, okay, it only takes me a week to get this place ready for the next tenant. And the other beautiful thing is that even before a tenant moves out, you can definitely make arrangements with the tenant to show the place. So that way you'll have someone in and out at the same time, to whereas you're not going to miss any money. And then that's where, you know, I know you've heard other real estate people say, hey, location, location, location. So if it's a location where the turnaround is quick, that's ideal for you as a landlord, because you want to get people out and in, because the days that that place sits empty is money that could come out of your pocket, and you don't want that to take place. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
So that's why we recommend going with something more than just that one door, because so far, key thing, when you do own it, generally we're used to leasing out to a tenant for 1 year. And I have yearly leases. I don't have anyone beyond 1 year, but my tenants have been long-term. I had a tenant that stayed with me for 8 years. I mean, that is so ideal. You know what I'm saying? Because when a tenant moves out, you have to go in, you have to paint, you may have to change the carpet, you may have to do some repairs. That's an expense to you, but as long as they're still in there, you know, at least you still have money coming in to send someone over to do repairs. And there are some people that know how to do their own repairs. And when you have a multi-dwelling, you can also, you know, luck up on having a tenant that knows how to do repairs. And then you can give them a discount on their rent, and they can become your property manager. So there's all different ways that you can do it to make everything flow nicely. So yeah, as a tenant moves out, that's just know that that's an expense to you to get the place ready for the next person. But if you already have someone there paying all the expenses, you're not going to be as stressed out when a tenant moves out. But you want to be on top of your property so that you can know that you can get someone in. So if you have a property that's not in a good location, where people don't feel safe living, that you don't feel safe going, knocking on the door, because, you know, right now, technology has changed. So tenants, like, they can send it to you digitally. You know, before you had to wait for someone to mail you your rents. Now they could, you know, Cash App it to you. So, or use Zelle or use Apple Pay, and you can get your money immediately into your account versus receiving a check, having to go to the bank, cash the check. So times have changed since I first started. So you'll definitely, we'll talk about different ways to make your life easy on doing that. So for the first 5 years, again, I will interject, you know, other materials that I have, like especially through the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I did my own property management for the first 5 years, which is a good experience for you. Although you can hire a property management team, but it's good to know how your place is. So there's times I'll go in and paint, or I'll go change the locks. I would not have known how to do that prior to me experiencing that on my own. So, but I don't do plumbing or electrical, or I'm not going to lay the carpet. Now I can lay a kitchen floor, bathroom floor, but you know, I'm not going to do that either. But I can do it if I had to do it, because one time, one of my places, you know, one tenant moved out, one tenant was moving in. And so the guy was like, the place was painted, there was new carpet down. And the guy was like, well, I'm going to have someone come out to, you know, clean the place. And so he said, it's going to cost $75. $75? What's there to clean, really? I'll come by and clean it. So there's times where you can definitely, if you need to save money in your budget, by all means, you know, you have that option to do that. So, and then two, you learn as you have things repaired along the way. Okay, if someone comes along and say, hey, this is how much this costs, I'm like, no, that's okay. I can, keep that in my budget. I'm not going to pay that amount, because a lot of times people can overcharge you. So I always recommend getting at least 3 estimates. And then that way you'll kind of get a ballpark of how much it really cost. But you'll learn along the way that you'll meet some handymen that will come in and do it for a fraction of a cost. Which is nice. I have a lot of not a lot of handymans, but once I meet one, I utilize them. And also when I call my handyman, they generally schedule, go out, fix it, and I pay them right then and there cash. So that same day. So when I call, they take my calls, they don't avoid me. So you have your income from your tenants coming in. So you want to make sure that that covers your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance. In some cases, you'll pay insurance through the bank. Also, like I said, the repairs, you do all of that. Then you minus out your expenses, and then the rest is cash flow. So that's what you're looking for. So when you do the numbers, you'll, decide on whether or not it's worth getting involved in that deal. Not all deals are good deals. And especially if this is your first home, which I think you say you already own a home, but the interest rates are much cheaper than if you're an investor. You will pay 20%. The insurance, if you move into the unit, is much cheaper. The taxes are much cheaper. But when you're an investor and you're not moving into the property, it's more money for the taxes and stuff. But that's something you can find out. You can find out all the numbers. The only thing that's not readily is the insurance, which you can just make a phone call. Hey, I'm thinking about purchasing this building. Here's the address. It's a 4-unit, it's a triplex, double. How much would the insurance be? And they can give that to you. So you can know every expense before you actually take over the property. So when you go to the closing, you'll know exactly what to expect. Now, the tax benefits, and that's something that I personally don't handle. I do have an accountant. That's another thing that we'll talk about, is building your team of people. So I have a realtor, I have a mortgage broker, I have an accountant, I have an attorney. I do my own books, but you can also hire a bookkeeper. You'll hire a handyman and so forth. But you want to create a team before you get started. And again, what I did was I looked for people that also had rental properties. So that way they stayed on top of, the rules, the tax rules and things of that sort. And they become advisors, like, hey, I'm looking at this property, I'm thinking about buying. And they'll, say, that's not going to work, or, you'll get some advice. But you do have the final say at the end of the day. So there's times where, my advisors have, advised me not to do a deal. But if I did the numbers, I will make that final decision. So I don't let them decide for me, but I do listen, because, these are people that have to represent you along the way. So, if you're talking to someone that doesn't have rental properties, especially like a realtor, you're looking for investment properties. So that's a different type of property than a residential home. it's different. So you're just spinning your wheels. They're wasting your time showing you properties that you're not interested in buying. So that's something to keep in mind. So I have, I don't have a problem with firing people on my team, because look, when you go to the closing, everyone involved gets a check. And so you want to make sure that you benefit from that as well. I didn't pull the recent charts, but you can see how houses in different states that increase over time. And after 2008, the market kind of changed to whereas some things are predictable, but sometimes things happen like 2008, where there was a mortgage crash, where banks were lending money to people that really couldn't afford the houses. And so a lot of those people lost homes. And so from time to time, the rules change. And so, but one thing about properties, there is a bull market and there is a bear market. There's times where people are buying homes and, don't need to rent. And there's times where people need a place to stay. One of the things that I wanted to just really point out is that it's important to know your areas. You want to know your criteria. So say, hey, I want to just do multi-dwelling, then you want to focus on that, especially starting out. You don't, in your time of investing, if that's something that you find out that you enjoy and you want to continue on doing it, you will come across other types of investments outside of your criteria. But for the most part, if you decide, hey, I want to do multi-dwellings and I want to buy duplexes, you want to stay in that lane. So you don't want to be looking at a 5-unit, because that's commercial property. You don't want to be looking at single family homes. That's wasting your time. So just really get clear. And as you, like I said, you may find that you start off in this lane, a duplex, but then you find out that the quads is your lane and you like that better. And you can, shift over to that. But just starting out, you want to keep your deal as easy and as simple as possible. And then that way, it'll give you the courage that you need to continue on. But again, you may find out, like, whatever your freedom number is, whatever that amount that you need to, so if your goal is to walk away from your job, then okay, I need to get 2 quads, which those are 8 doors, 4 over here, 4 over here. And if you had 8 tenants, then that may be enough passive income coming in to meet your needs. So you'll find that there's people out there that buy 100 doors. So at the beginning, I just, set a goal for myself. I said, you know what? I'm gonna buy a house every 2 years. And so that was at a pace that was comfortable for me. And so after getting in, I knew I didn't want to have 100 doors. That's a lot to manage for me. So you have to do what's comfortable for you. So, and so, yes, over time, your house will appreciate. One nice thing is when you do have buy and there's equity in the home, or over course of time that there's built-in equity, or you're paying down the mortgage, or your tenants, of course, is going to be paying down your mortgage. You can borrow against your equity. So you can borrow up to 80% of your equity. And then you could take that to go purchase your next building, if that's your goal. But that's the beauty of it. You can borrow against the house. The tenant will still continue to be there to pay the rent. And then the new property, again, you just do the numbers and that tenant will take care of that property. After a while, you'll see you'll build momentum and you have a nice little chunk of change coming in monthly. That's what I love about real estate, is that, you know, over the course of time, so say if you did put down, you know, 3.5% initially, now that's when that's your first home and you're moving into your investment property. But say, you know, I've had to put down 20%. But again, there's deals out there that you can put down 20%, make that money back within a year or two. And then you could take that money, reinvest it into your next property. And I know I don't have to talk to you about, you know, budgeting, you know how to do that very well. But you want to reinvest it so that you get the momentum going. Then after a while, you know, you have all this money coming in, you're taking care of your family, you're doing the things that you love to do. You have the time available to do it. If your goal is to come off your job, you'll be able to do that as well. One of the things, and I won't go over the entire list, but the tax benefits. So say if you sell your house and, you know, just like if you sell stocks, there's capital gains. So to avoid paying taxes on your sale, so say if I sell my house is 80,000. And so say if I only owe 60,000 on a mortgage, which means that I'm gonna walk away with 20,000. Well, if I go and purchase a house equal to or greater than what I just sold, that's called a 1031 exchange. So if I do that, I won't have to pay any taxes. But you have to do it within the time frame, and I believe it's like 89 days, and we'll be able to confirm that along the way. I don't think that has changed, but within 89 days, you'll be able to roll it over into another property and not pay taxes. So that's one of the beautiful things there. So there's interest deduction, there's depreciation. So over the course of 30 years, they will stretch that out. Repairs and improvement. So as you're keeping the property up, that's something that you could write off for taxes. You can write off for losses. So if you're, say, a tenant moves out and it takes you 2 months to find a new tenant, well, that's a loss and you can write that off. Equity buildup and leverage. Now, one of the things when it talks about appreciation, it talks about how, you know, like the downtown area, like you can tell, like there's a real nice area that they've built up and it looks nice. The homes are beautiful. They've remodeled the homes, and across the street is like the hood. And so you can attend meetings, zoning meetings, like over Mount Vernon area. They are bringing in, they're expanding the hospital over there. And so a lot of those homes at one point were beautiful homes, still beautiful homes, but a lot of people with money moved out. And so they've cleared that whole area out because it's going to look like the Easton area when they get done. So you can go in, and especially like when you're driving around, you want to start to pay attention. If you see a lot of building and you know, activities going on all of a sudden, you know, you can find out what's going on and you can get in at the beginning of growth. And so I always look for up and coming areas. That's where I find my properties, because I'm in Hilliard. And so I bought a condo over, if you're familiar with Hilliard, behind Myers. And so right across the street was nothing but field. But now it's houses, and I was over there. I haven't been on that end in a minute. And from the time I purchased back in 97. And so, oh my goodness, they have built up the area. So you can walk to the stores. I mean, I miss over there. I'm still in Hilliard, but I'm on the other side near Davison. And over there, we could walk to the grocery store, McDonald's, Perkins. I mean, Walmart was across the street. We didn't really have to get in our car to do those things. Over here, we have to get in our car and go to the store. So that's what I'm saying. You want to know your demographics, because, you know, the book does talk about how, you know, downtown is more yuppies and, you know, so you want to know the age range of the people that you're servicing. So if you're, you know, at one time, you know, I was looking at properties where the schools were good, the areas where schools were good, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. So that's what I was looking for, because that's the type of clientele that I was going after. There's senior communities, there's, he called them yuppies, but you know, the millennials is what we call them now. So, you know, you want to, you know, so those people are looking for free Wi-Fi. And I did go out and occasionally just look at some of the apartments and the amenities that they're offering. So, so back in 97, you know, we have a clubhouse, which, you know, you can rent, pool, a workout area. Now they have movie rooms. So, you know, you just can cater or just be more detailed on what you offer people. It's just the little things that you can do to add value to the property, like light fixtures and fans and landscaping. Those little things add value. A lot of times what people are looking for are nice modern kitchens and bathrooms. Those are key things that most people focus on. And then they keep the paint neutral. You know, a lot of, you know, rentals have you know, they just keep the paint neutral. So that way they, you know, people can come in and see themselves in the place. So you definitely, like I said, after a while, you'll learn a system that you can use for each and every place and be successful. You'll know how to get people in and out and get the place ready. And so that's very important when you are getting into becoming a landlord, is what we call it. Now, I do have property managers now, so, but you're still involved because, you know, and I'm not sure, because this is like our, what, third or fourth book club meeting, but, you know, I do have property managers, so they deal with the tenants, and the only time they involve me is when, you know, a major decision has to be made. So that's nice. So it's worth it for me to have a property manager, but I can always slip back in and take over, because that was something that that I did for the first 5 years. So, and Kim, if you have any questions, feel free.
Sorry, I was trying to get it off mute. Yes, so far, I don't really have any questions. Although I did have one thing that was popping up while you were speaking, and it was just something I saw on a local community page for somebody who had a rental property.
Mm-hmm.
And the question was, when you're advertising a rental property,
Mm-hmm.
can you list that you do not accept Section 8? And because I do know that Section 8, you have to meet certain requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So if you know that you don't meet those requirements, can you legally advertise that you wouldn't accept that?
Well, I wouldn't advertise it. I wouldn't advertise it, because when people call you with interest and they'll ask you, do you take Section 8? And you just say no. But that's not something I would advertise in the paper. So, because you don't want anyone to feel as though you're discriminating against them. But
Okay.
hopefully Mike will join us because he does Section 8. The people that do Section 8 love it. I haven't done Section 8. And then you can Google the Section 8 to find out what the requirements are. And we can look at that as well before finishing the book. But it's not anything outside of where your place really wouldn't, not meet the requirements, because it'll tell you exactly what they're looking for. So they want to make sure there's no lead in your paint. And I could tell you, like in my basement, in this house, the people that owned the house before kind of did a lot of their own work. So in my garage where they did their own wiring, I had a handyman come out once and he was like, you're gonna have to fix that, if you're gonna do Section 8, which I mean, I didn't have a desire to do Section 8, but and again, certain locations, in Section 8, people want to live in nice places too. But the nice thing about, there is some, I wouldn't rule them out, but I wouldn't advertise it. If they call and say, hey, I'm calling about your apartment, do you accept Section 8? You just say, sorry, at this time, I do not. And that's it.
Okay. Okay.
You just say, at this time, I'm not, and that's your choice. You don't have to. And just to,
in the online forum that I was just kind of following it. I wasn't commenting on it or anything like that, but it got quite heated between people in the community on the way that it was advertised, and is it discriminatory? Is it not discriminatory? A lot of judgment, but
yeah, you don't want to advertise that you don't take Section 8. It's just real simple. When they call and ask you, you just say, no, I don't. But would I take a Section 8? I sure would, because especially during this Corona time, they only pay like a small portion, if anything, for rent. You get your rent from Section 8, guaranteed money. You know what I'm saying? So you definitely, and they have to be screened just like everybody else. So
yeah, I kind of thought about that a lot during these COVID times, because like you just said, I know that it's a guaranteed check, but when they did, the block on evictions, and there were quite a lot of people that took that as an opportunity not to pay their rent, and, kind of makes it really difficult for a lot of people, especially the person carrying the mortgage.
And see, that's where location comes from. So like, I look for places in working class areas. You know what I'm saying? I did buy my duplex on the west side of Columbus. So those people were on Social Security. I had one tenant that did work and she was perfect. But, during this time, you got people, family members dying, you have people, being out of work. But you screen Section 8 just like this. So if you establish a criteria, you know what I'm saying? So you want to look at some people are more strict than others, but there's a website that I'll share that you can, you do a background check on everybody. You could check their credit. If you have strict criteria, then you want to stick to that. Because if you don't, that will bite you in the butt down the road. So you don't have to rent. I've never had rented to a Section 8, and it never came up. So, you know what I'm saying? So in certain areas, it's not going to come up, but Section 8 people want to live in nice areas as well. So, but again, I wouldn't suggest that to be your first deal. You want to keep it very simple so that you can just get a feel of the process and how to go about it. But after a while, you may love Section 8. And like I said, Mike, he does Section 8, but I've never came across where that was, someone asked me if I had it. Maybe I did years ago. But again, certain areas like the West Side, it's a whole different clientele over there. So those people are going to be late on their rent. You know, they're waiting for the checks to come in. You know, it's a different type of clientele. So you decide what your tolerance level is. So if you don't want to do Section 8, you don't have to, and it's no big deal. So, you know, you find out what your tolerance. So like some people like the hilltop. I did, like I said, I did have a property on the West Side, but even there's some nice areas on the West Side and there's some bad areas on the West Side. So on one area, you know, I sent out a lady, beautiful home, and she passed away and her house was for sale. But I couldn't get a handyman to go over there. So, you know, if he's not willing to go and he's a man, you know, that was my deciding against purchasing that property, because, you know, you don't want to, especially as a woman, go over and, you know, have to knock on the door, have to go over there and change the locks, and, you know, someone's robbing you while you're over there. So you just find locations that meet your criteria. So there's so many different entry levels to real estate. So when you buying a duplex, a triplex, and a quad, because that's what this book is about. But again, the same process is for a single family. But there's different entries into the real estate. So when you do a double, triplex, or the quad, you're actually a buy and hold type investor. But there are some people that buy single family homes that they rehab and flip. The only thing about flipping, there's pros and cons about all of the different areas, but like I said, and in your course of buying real estate, because it gets addicting, you know, you love that money coming in, you may do some buy and flips. You know, you're going to come across deals that, you know what, this makes sense. And so you can buy and flip it and make a nice little lump sum. So, you know, just like Monopoly, you buy 4 greenhouses and then you know, trade it in for a hotel. So again, it's all in what you're doing, what you need to accomplish your financial goals. So you may come across a single family rehab and flip, which I did purchase a property down in Indiana, Gary, Indiana, to do just that. Which leads us into, I got it at a tax lien auction. So one nice thing about tax liens is that some people want to, it allows you to take money and pay. So if I didn't pay my taxes on my house, it has to be paid. The city needs the money. You know, they needed the money for the roads and schools and libraries and hospitals. So investors, they go out and seek investors to come in and pay my taxes if I get behind on my taxes. So there are some people that just are interested in interest. So they'll pay my taxes. That still gives me an opportunity to pay my taxes. And each county, each state is different. So some places may give you 2 months to do it, 6 months, a year, 2 years to pay your taxes. When I pay my taxes, I have to pay my taxes, late fees, and interest. That and when I do that, that investor gets that money. So they get their money back as guaranteed money for them that the city offers. And these are boxes from my work computer. So I see them in the background. So, and you can also, like, for instance, when I went to the Indiana auction, you go and you bid. So my taxes could be, say, $5,000. the investor can make a bid. And so if there's no one bidding higher, the house that I got was at $900. And so there, it's only 2 months. So you have to immediately go put a notice on the door, say, hey, I'm getting ready. I just paid your taxes. I need you to, they still have an opportunity. There's still a window for them to go pay their taxes. And again, if they pay their taxes, I get my money back and interest and late fees. But if they don't pay their taxes by the deadline, you get the deed to the house. And that's what's nice about auctions. Now, here in Ohio, it's hybrid, which means they do both. You can go and make a bid, but they do it a little different here because they do like a lot of, it's not just one house you're bidding on a lot, a package deal of houses. And, or you can go to the auction to make a bid on the deed. And usually when you're going for the deed auctions, it's very competitive. So you're going to pay more, but you still, if you're diligent, can walk away with getting a house for dirt cheap, so that's something to think about. Now that I've experienced that, it's hard for me to go out and pay a full price for a house now. But you'd be surprised, before the auction, now a lot of this is online. You go online and there's like tons of people that have not paid their taxes. And so if that's something you're interested in, it does recommend a book. Also, I'll recommend the books that I think are beneficial for that as well. So yeah, that's available. There's wholesaling, tenant management. It didn't give a definition of what that is, but I'm thinking that that's where, again, you buy a property and then you have the tenant manage it, which, it's a win-win situation for the both of you. You have someone living on the property, daily, keeping the property up. So that's a plus for you as an owner. There's commercial multifamilies, which is 5 units and up. So that's commercial property. And then 2 to 4 units is considered residential multifamily, and you can buy. I don't know if you met Javen, he's in the group too, but he just purchased a 4-unit, and this was his first home. So 3 of the units were already rented. He purchased the building and he moved into the 4th unit. All the tenants are paying the expenses. So now he doesn't pay anything out of pocket because his tenants pay everything for him. So he went from paying rent month to month. Now he's living mortgage free, rent free. Of course, he pays utilities in his own place, but he doesn't pay anything towards his mortgage. So he is just stacking that money. Now, some people can spend it, but if you're trying to build wealth, you want to stay the course. So that's money you were already spending. Put it aside, let that build up. So 12 months from now, so if you're paying $1,000 a month, at the end of the year, you're going to have 12,000, right? You're the accountant, so you have to keep me straight there. So he's going to do it one more time. Now he'll have to change it over to a conventional loan, but he'll be able to get another loan at the 3.5% and do it one more time. And so now he'll rent out that apartment he was living in. He'll move into the empty one at the new 4-unit. And because you have to live there for a year. After that, he'll have 8 tenants in 2 years. So, and there's different strategies you can do. I mean, there's people that are killing the game on single family. So you could buy 1 single family this year. Next year, buy 2 houses. Now you got 3. The following year, you could buy 3 houses. Now you got 6. So, you know, you definitely can easily put a strategy together and definitely multiply your money easily. So what do you think about that?
I think that is very impressive.
So, and he's
Very
in his
impressive.
20s. He's fresh out of college. He has an engineer degree. He did an internship. Now I interviewed him last week, so his interview's on the Instagram Live, but he's mortgage free. And so that's one thing that we don't even think about. We're always thinking that we're going to always have a mortgage. We're always going to have a car payment. We're always going to have bills. And that doesn't have to be the case. Think about the cell phone. Like, we keep getting new ones, I mean, who would have thought you'd be paying? Well, my bill is about $200 a month. And that's with me and my daughter on the plan. But who would have thought that we would be paying, and we keep renewing the phone? You know, who would have thought that we would be in that position where, so we don't have to be on that cycle. Now, let's talk about things that you can do to raise your rent. So, I mean, he talks about, you know, so even if you buy a 4-unit, you move into one, you don't have to, you know, not all 4 units need to be rehab, but when you do buy a 4-unit and it is rented, so I'll keep using Javen as an example. When he closed, he got money at the table. And how he did that, because he already had 3 tenants. So they had to give him their security, whatever they collected for that tenant to move in. And he closed right when it was time to collect rent. So not only did he get their securities, but he also got the rent. And so he walked away. He was just like so geeked, you know. So you definitely want to do your numbers in a way. And again, before we finish the book, you'll definitely have some systems. I'll show you calculators and different ways that you can figure that total to know what you're going to make. And then a lot of times you can make your money right at the beginning. Now we were talking about Section 8, but what about pets? I charge extra for pets. I had a tenant, I charge $500 deposit for pet, and a monthly, I charge them rent too. And because pets will scratch up your floors. Matter of fact, my property down south, you know, I got a call. I mean, the tenant had taken pictures, like saying that there was a sinkhole in the backyard. Okay, so we sent people out there like, what are you talking about? They had a pole in the ground. Well, come to find out, and this is another thing you'll find, especially with property management, they have, you know, guidelines as well. So when I first rented out the house, we had a swing set in the backyard, perfectly fine, and they made us take it down for liability purposes. But the tenant lived there for 4 years. They installed a pool back there. The yard is humongous. So the pool was overflowing into the yard and the dogs were digging holes. So anyway, I charge. So, you know what I'm saying? You can go ahead and tear it up if you like. Just know that I'm going to keep your security. So I charge dogs, pets, cats, a security, and a monthly rate.
They put a pool in?
They put a pool in the backyard. And see, one thing about the property management I have down south, they go quarterly and do a walkthrough. So how they missed that, I don't know. So yeah, so anyway, we made them take it down because we didn't agree to that. Yeah, so it gets into like flipping houses. One thing about that, um, rent a property, once you let's say if your goal is to have 2 4 units, so that's 8 tenants. That may be the exact amount that you need and you're done. So once you get your system, you'll see it's very like at the beginning is where you put in a lot of the work. So where you're getting the place ready, you're renting it, you're showing it. Um, so, you know, you may be out having dinner with the family and then someone calls, say, hey, I want to see the place. And then you know, you got to go and show the place because that's your money. And so, but once you get a tenant in and they get settled, it's month after month just collecting rent. And so if my tenant calls me and say, hey, the refrigerator is not working, I replace it brand new. So I know that I'm not going to get any more calls about that. And I'll go get a scratch and dent, you know? You know what I'm saying? So I'll, you know, you can buy brand new and have a scratch or dent. I mean, it's rental property. So I'm not going to put top of the line in there, but I'm not going to put cheap stuff in there either, because if you do, if you half fix it, you're going to get call after call. Just go ahead and fix it and then they're done. And that makes them happy, you know? So I've always had long-term tenants. Thankfully, well, except for the duplex. That duplex was like my first investment property. I ended up selling it, but it was like my worst because of the location, because of the clientele. So, you know, I can tell you horror stories, but when you're flipping, you got to keep working. You can like say if you make 50, okay, so whatever you make per year, you can do one deal and do that and be done for the year. But you'll find that you'll keep moving and doing it. So you got to keep going out, finding property to flip versus you get 8 tenants, you can be somewhere on the beach. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that you have to keep going out every day looking for property to flip. Um, and then because I'm a buy and hold, like I worked with, you know, you'll find people that are in the business and you can definitely find some mentors, and there's organizations like RIA that you can go. And that's a good place to start, because not only will you meet other investors, but you'll hear what they're looking at. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, you know, buy and hold may not be popular right now. They may be wholesaling, you know, so you'll get to hear the conversation and see what they're doing. The people that are actively in the business every day. The other thing is you'll meet contractors, you know, so you'll meet people that can rehab for you, or because that's the key thing with flipping is that you need a team of people that will come in and um, come in, do the work. You'll get good at the pricing. That's another thing. You'll walk through a house and you're like, okay, so it's about $10,000 worth of repairs or $25,000 worth of repairs. That is important, because if you start a project, and you're thinking it's 25,000 and it's 50,000, now you're 50,000 deep into your budget, you know, that will kill a deal. So you'll get good after a while to when you walk through, because you'll know, okay, this kitchen needs a refrigerator, needs a floor, you know, you'll learn how to calculate those prices. So, and that's another thing about some of the deals. So you may not want to start off with a rehab if you're not good at, if you don't have a background in that, because you, especially if you're working full time, you have to kind of monitor your team of people, because you know, you're hiring somebody, okay, so you're scheduled today, somebody's coming in to do the plumbing, tomorrow someone's doing the electricity. You get there the next day and they're like, hey, the plumbing's not done. Well, what do you mean? The plumber was supposed to be here yesterday and the plumber didn't show up. So you kind of got to manage that to make sure that everybody's supposed to be where they are supposed to be. Because again, rehabbing a house, that means the expenses are, until you sell it, those expenses are there. You got to put the lights on, you got to, so that they can work on the inside, there's expenses. And so, and then too, a lot of the flippers will borrow money from investors, not so much the bank. You know what I'm saying? So there's a deadline that you got to pay that money back before it turns into something else. You know what I'm saying? So you're on a time crunch. So, so you're going to go through a couple of, contractors before you find that team that's perfect for you. But in the meantime, when you flip, you need a team that will go in and get it done so that you can make that sale and pay your investors back. Because if you don't, a lot of times, if you find an investor that you make the money and you pay them the interest that they're looking for in a timely fashion, guess what? They're going to be with you on the next deal. But if you don't, they may not invest with you again. So, and then you don't want to get into, now you have this house on your book for 3 months. And so that's when you run into problems when you are flipping. So it's good to know the terms because, when you're out there talking, they can kind of tell if you're not speaking the lingo, they'll automatically, you could easily get taken advantage of because then they'll know exactly, okay, this person really doesn't know what we're talking about. It talks about foreclosures. I will say this is that I do sit on a board of a credit union, and I am there because I'm in the real estate investing, and especially around 2008, well, a couple after that, they had a lot of houses on their books. And so they do have, you can call the banks and credit unions, say, hey, I'm an investor, I buy houses, and you can be on their list. That's not something that they advertise, but they do have a list of investors that they'll call and say, hey, we have this house on our books that we want to get rid of. This is the cost. And what's nice about, I can't speak for the banks, but I will say about the credit union that I'm involved in. So say if someone loses their house to foreclosure, and a lot of times people will go in, if it's not occupied, and they'll go in, or even the people that live there will steal the pipes or, trash the place. They'll go in and rehab it. But if you know that you could do the rehab or have a team to do the rehab, you can go in because it's cheaper to get it before they do the rehab. When you start involving people, and that's like with wholesaling, you can find places that before the rehab is done, you're getting it at a lower price so that you can sell it to the rehabber at a higher price, so that you'll know the exact amount that you can resell it to somebody else. And then the rehabbers will come in and they're buying it kind of like at a discounted price as well. They'll rehab it. Now the value is, what I'm saying, now they're selling it to someone that's gonna buy the house to move in. So, there's a lot of transactions that take place before this person buys the house to move in, but it depends on where you get in and your expertise and your skills to where you, the more skills you have, the cheaper you can get the house, so that's something to think about. But yes, you can contact banks, you can contact credit unions like, hi, I'm an investor, and they have a list of investors. So when they have a house on their books that they want to get off their books, they'll sell it to an investor. So you can definitely build a relationship and a rapport. Or if you know someone that can get your name on a list, that is something that is also available to you as an investor. So any questions? We're almost done there.
No questions.
Okay, all right. So there's all types of deals that you can definitely take advantage of. I think my next deal, I want to do commercial, more than 4 units. So I've been positioning myself to be able to do that. But yeah, the demographics is everything, you know what I'm saying? So, like a senior population, they're not looking for anything grand, especially if they are downsizing. But if you're looking, and I think he was saying like, you definitely, and then like, for instance, there's not a lot of multi-dwellings on the books. And so you can definitely, you'll learn to drive around and see distressed properties. I would never go into a boarded up house or building because I'm thinking, trash on the inside. But sometimes someone will, just starting out, will go out and buy a bigger project than they can handle. And so they will board up the windows to protect the windows. They put in brand new windows. And again, if you leave an empty building unoccupied, you're going to have people that may come by and try to break your windows or get inside, or we'll learn about squatters. That could, happen too. So you definitely want to keep the property up even when no one is in there. But if you're driving around town and you see where the grass is high, where you see trash piled up, where someone got evicted and their furniture is out in a decent area, you can definitely, even if you don't see a for sale sign out there, you can find out who the owner is and contact them and say, hey, I was wondering if you'd be interested in selling your property. And you can find some deals that way. Not everything will have a for sale sign out front. So you'll learn how to detect properties that, for instance, I'm not down south. So, and I haven't been down there. Look, I can't remember. I think maybe 2012, somewhere around there. So it's been a while since I've been down south, but I've had a tenant in there ever since. But still, people notice, and it's public information to find out who owns a building or a house. And then the neighbors, like for instance, the house down south used to be my dad's. So, the neighbors knew he lived there and that he passed away. That's another way to find good deals. Some people will go through the obituary, because at that point, a lot of people, and in my case, I inherited a house. I just happened to be an investor, but there's a lot of family members that inherit a house that they don't want to be bothered with. And some people, like, don't know what to do or how to go about it, and they don't pay the taxes. Now, the house could be paid free and clear, but if you don't pay the taxes, you can still lose the house. And so that's where the tax auctions come in handy. And so, So even though you don't see a for sale sign, but you kind of like drive by this building all the time and you're like, you know what, I wonder if they'd be interested in selling that. And you might, and then there's websites that you can check every day in the area. A lot of off the market things will show up, because if it's on the market, if it's on the MLS, you'll find that, you know, it's going to be at a higher price. But sometimes the timing will be perfect where, you know, someone will pass away and now their family has it and they don't want to be bothered. And so you can definitely go in and negotiate a nice deal. And sometimes you can even if the owner is still living, but they may be in another state, you know, they can become your bank. There's deals where you can say, hey, let me take over this property. I've done that with property, and I didn't own the house, but I took it over and paid the owner what they were looking for. And so you can definitely negotiate some deals there. So there's all different types of ways to get in and get involved with the real estate. So, but that's all I have for tonight. We'll definitely, I didn't look at chapters 3 and 4 for the next week, but that's what we'll read and prepare for that. But definitely, matter of fact, I'll send you, we did it's on our YouTube channel, but we did a deal. We did a single, we did a double, and we did a quad. So I'll send you, because we did a presentation with the numbers and to show you how to break it down and show you the cash flow. So we have done a video on that already. So I will send that to your email. And that's it for me.
Okay.
And so if you know anyone else that would like to know more about real estate investing, and like I said, this is a perfect timing because when you are ready, you don't want to start from scratch learning how to do it. So at least you'll know how to do a deal. You'll know how to go out and do your deal when the book is finished. So
Okay.
thank you so much for joining.
Yes, thank you.
And you have a wonderful evening.
You do the same.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.